Howdy folks, Jambareeqi here. Yesterday I went to go and see Zootopia, also known as Zootropolis in my country for legal reasons. This is Disney's newest animated feature. It's set in a world made up entirely of anthropomorphic animals. The story centers on a bunny cop called Judy Hopps and a hustler fox called Nick Wilde as they try to unravel the mystery behind 12 missing mammals. Now, this movie has been hyped up big time. Everyone's been very enthusiastic about it, and it's received a lot of praise. And I've been hyped up myself based on articles I'd read, interviews I'd seen, and concept art I'd come across. But have my expectations been met? Kind of, sort of, yes, maybe? Okay. Let's first talk about the things that make this film fantastic. First of all, the dynamic between Nick and Judy. This is such a great pairing. The personalities are both fleshed out very well, so they bounce off each other fantastically. There's a brilliant chemistry between them, and they develop a very touching relationship. And the way that they banter off each other is very funny. The way that they tease each other is very entertaining. And yeah, I felt very attached to these characters and their backstories, and yeah, they're just a really great pairing. I haven't seen an animated pairing like this since Woody and Buzz, seriously. It's so good, such a great pairing. The case that Judy and Nick are trying to solve is a fantastic mystery element of the film. It's very exciting, it's drip-fed to the audience. We don't have everything handed to us on a plate. We gradually find out more and more, and little red herrings are planted here and there. We think we've found out something, and then there's a twist. Or we think we know everything, but then things go deeper. It's so exciting! The final reveal for what's going on makes sense as well, because it's been built up so well throughout the film. It all adds up. You're like, I can see, yeah, I get it now. Then there's the film's theme of racism. Yes, this Disney movie is about racial tension. It's about the relationship between predators and prey, their misconceptions of each other, what it means to be a predator, what it means to be a prey. I think that this is a subject that needed to be addressed in a film made in 2016, considering what's going on right now, considering the environment we're in right now. This is a theme that needs to be talked about in a kids movie too. It's something that's going to be relevant for years to come, not just in 2016. This is something that children need to learn and discuss and be aware of. And the film definitely addresses it in a very, very mature way. I wasn't expecting this movie to address racism to this extent. I knew it was going to be about racism based on what I heard, but I didn't know it was going to be this sophisticated, political, and adult about it. I really didn't. I'm so glad it went there. It's fantastic. It's important that we teach these values to kids at an early age so that there's no misunderstandings about race. So I'm so glad that this movie went there. I'm so appreciative. I really am. At the same time though, you can apply the film's allegory to other kinds of things. You can think about homophobia and sexism and other things like that. You can apply it to those things. The film is that broad. So I have so many fantastic things to say about Zootopia, yet I said that it didn't reach my expectations. Why? Well, this film has problems, the biggest one being Zootopia itself. In concept, it's brilliant, this multicultural society with different environments for each district, different climates for each district. That's really cool, but we don't really get a broad picture, a broad feel of what Zootopia is like as a whole and the relationship between all its different districts and citizens and cultures and things like that. It's not a big picture painted. We do get to visit a couple of different kinds of districts. Nick and Judy come across all these different little kinds of places, but we don't really get to a feel of what those places are like and how people in those areas get along. We don't really get a sense of what the culture's like in each of these districts. We just pop into each one and see what they're kind of like visually. That's about it. And that kind of let me down a bit, to be honest. From what I read in interviews and saw in concept art, I thought the Zootopia had so much creative potential. This amazing, big, multicultural place with so many different kinds of ideas. But it's kind of glimpsed over. It's more of a background thing, which it is. It's a setting, but the film is called Zootopia. It should be a central focus, and when racial tension is addressed in the story, when it becomes a big focus, it doesn't really get painted in a big picture. We just see a very small protest going off somewhere and then move on. There's no sense of chaos or how this is affecting the society as a whole, how different districts are responding to each other. We don't see that. We don't get a feel of that. And I feel as if that the subject of racism loses a sense of weight and emotion because of that. It doesn't impact me as much. A lot of the more racially driven scenes later on in the film, they don't hit me as much as they could have done because I've not felt like I've been immersed in Zootopia enough. Yes, things do happen once racial tension becomes a hot topic in Zootopia, but it's all seen through a very small frame. We get glimpses of what's happening. We don't get the big picture. We don't get a really big picture of society crumbling because of racial tension. It's a very small frame, a very little idea of what's going on. It doesn't help that a lot of characters don't get much development either. A lot of characters are just put in the foreground, so we don't really get to know them and their feelings about predators and prey and their feelings about racism in this society. They're just kind of put at the side. Nick and Judy are the main focus of this film, so yeah, a lot of characters are just put aside, and this is the biggest problem for a character called Gazelle, who is supposed to be this voice of reason, this famous pop star who speaks out when racial tension becomes a problem in Zootopia. She's like making a big deal that we should bring peace, that we should all get along. But Gazelle barely appears in the film, and she's mainly only relevant when the characters are talking about this silly phone app where you can put your face dancing next to Gazelle. That's the only times when it becomes a big part of the film, and Gazelle just appears randomly in different parts of the film. And I read that she was supposed to be the heart of the city, that she was supposed to be this shining light, and you don't get that from her. She's just there. She's just there in the background. Like I said, characters, a lot of characters are just put in the background instead of the foreground, where you feel as if that they belong. My other problem with this film has to be its overabundance of Disney jokes. There's so much self-referential humour in this film. I haven't seen this much since Aladdin and the King of Thieves. I groaned so many times. Okay, I get it. You're Disney, you've made all these different films, you're going to make these films. But do you have to make it such a big part of the film? Do you have to put it in the foreground? I mean, yes, there have been Disney movies that have referenced their past work before, but they've been little subtle Easter eggs in the background. They've been something there that you can spot, and it's really fun to go, oh, I can see, But with Zootopia, it's just a big focus, and it's kind of cringy. There's mainly a lot of Frozen gags, and it gets so cringy. It's like, okay, I get it, this film is from the team behind Frozen. Well done for winning that Oscar. Can you now focus on the film itself, the film you're making now? You don't have to talk about that film. If you want to reference the fact you made Frozen, have it be a bit more nuanced, okay? Maybe it's just me, but that part of the film bothered me. It was really cheesy and just distracting. There's something embarrassingly self-indulgent about Zootopia constantly trying to draw focus to Disney's past work and future work. It's like watching the filmmakers pat themselves on the back again and again. It made me wince and facepalm. So I think that Zootopia is definitely a very sophisticated and deeply political entry in the Disney canon. It's entertaining, exciting, intelligent, gripping, and very funny. But it paints a very small picture of a really big thing, of a really huge society, of a really important subject. So I felt a little let down. Don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed it. It's a fantastic movie. But I wouldn't say that it met the expectations set by the hype. Oh well. Cheerio, folks.